This guy, white dude, was entering the building, and because it was raining, I was like, hey, can you just let me in the lobby? And he was like, I don't know, what if you have a bomb in your bag? And I, like... Welcome to Dirty Brown. I'm your host, Kriti J. Jharu in hand. I know this is a pen. Not to clean, but to start things up. You met today's guest in the last episode, and you may have gathered from our conversations, we actually go way back. We went to boarding school together, grew up in the same place, but we chose very different cities for our adult life. We were talking recently, on paper, our lives look very similar. We are unmarried, child-free, independent, working on ourselves, our passions. We are child-free. I mean, that's the truth. How would you describe us?
Child-free.
Going back to our lives on paper, we're working on our passions and our career, but we live in very different cities, in very different cultures, and there's a common belief that women are freer abroad, or life is easier for women abroad. So today we wanted to sit with that question and examine it with our lives in Gurgaon for Sugandha and Toronto for me, and see what holds up, what doesn't, and what it actually costs us. Welcome back, Sugandha.
Thank you.
I've been living abroad since I left high school, and I often fantasize about coming back to India.
I think I always convinced her that, you know what, you should just come back.
She does. Every time I come back, I visit her, we hang out, and that's exactly what she says to me. But I am really scared about that decision.
But why are you scared?
I've never lived my adult life here. I can only speak from experience. So last time when we were hanging out at your place, we kind of lost track of time. It was midnight by the time I had to go back home, and so I called an Uber. But that Uber driver basically called me a sex worker.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
What did he say?
So he was asking me for directions when we left from here and once we reached my aunt's place. And both times I said to him that I don't live here, and so can you just follow the maps? And so he was basically just like, oh, you don't live here, so you're working the night.
He actually said that?
Yeah. He said,
but जैसे आप रात को धंधा करती हैं.
Something along those lines, yes. But honestly, it wasn't the fact that he called me a sex worker.
But it can be scary.
Stung. Yes, he didn't do anything violent. He wasn't aggressive about anything. He just passed a comment.
The comment that he made probably made you think that maybe he's just not that accepting of women being out at that point in time.
Exactly.
And that made you feel a little bit unsafe.
It actually made me angry. Because how dare he think women should be out at a certain point or not, and if they are out at a certain point that means they are a sex worker or something like that. I was angry and frustrated, and I wanted to confront his audacity. At that point, I felt unsafe because
what he reacted in the violent way.
Yeah, what if then the things escalated and I was alone with him on the streets, there was nobody around. I was almost home, right? There's no point in engaging. But the thing that stayed with me was the fact that I don't have to think about it even twice when I take Ubers at 3 a.m., 4 a.m., at random times at night, even public transit.
I get you, because the time that I also moved to Gurgaon for work, initially I did not have a car. So even if I'm traveling after 9 o'clock, I would be a little scared to travel in an Uber because there have been instances where I just felt unsafe in the car. And I know that Uber has those safety tools, you have a safety button, all of those things are there. But the point is that by the time that actually takes into effect, what if something catastrophic actually happens and it's just too late?
It's true, yeah.
Because the reaction time is going to have its own time. It's not going to happen instantaneously, but what can happen to you can be instantaneous. And I won't say that everybody is like that, but even if out of 100, even if there's one driver and you happen to be in that driver's car, then what?
Then what, yeah.
When I moved and I had to take the Uber again and again, and eventually I was just like, it's not sustainable because I can't always be feeling at unease. I don't want to feel uneasy anytime I'm traveling with an Uber or have that kind of anxiety like, oh my God, what if something were to happen?
Yeah.
So I bought a car. I don't have to travel in an Uber anymore, and that will just resolve it. I wouldn't say that's the best approach, but then I felt like that's one way to ensure that I'm safe in my own environment.
You and I have the privilege to even have that choice.
in Delhi, public transport is okay, especially like a metro. I think metro is like pretty good. You have a separate compartment for women. But what about the end-to-end connectivity? Like the moment you get out of the metro station and you have to go to your place, either you take an auto or you take an Uber. You are sharing that confined space with that one person.
Yeah.
So that's a tricky situation to be in, because even if something were to happen to you, you are in a moving vehicle. There's not really somebody who can actually just step in and do something.
Yeah. Can I tell you, I have learned how to do chokeholds in judo. And the first thought is, if something happens, this is how I'm going to choke this person from behind.
You know what, in those moments, even though I'm a confident woman who is physically fit, I've actually learned boxing also. So I know that in terms of the know-how, I'm little bit equipped. I wouldn't say that I'll match the strength of a man. But at least I'll know that there's something I can put up
you
in
have
terms
the
of
muscle
a fight.
memory to
something
even
to do.
React in that moment and not freeze. Yeah.
But the point is that I actually do freeze. Even if I want to react, I'm not able to. And then once that incident happened, then I'm just like, I didn't do what I should have done. Even a small thing like, what if there's somebody who teased me on a bike? I probably wouldn't react quick enough to at least capture the number plate of the bike. Even though the person is there in my line of sight for a while, like that just doesn't occur in the moment.
It takes a lot of actual simulated experiences so that you build that confidence.
Yeah.
But this is the thing, like, why is the responsibility on us? Like, you buy your safety, you buy the car, don't go out at night or dress the way you do.
Yeah, like people always say
us.
that, right? That, you probably put yourself in a situation and that's why this happened.
Yeah. Women are the ones who are danger to their own safety, apparently. Outside of Ubers, how else does this show up? Does it not show up?
For me, the travel part was the most crucial part to address when I moved here. That that's one time where I'm alone with the driver, so I don't want to find myself in that situation. Apart from that, usually either when I'm at work, when I go to a restaurant or an event, there are always so many people around that it's never a question that I would feel unsafe. But for runs, I am not able to run in the dark alone ever.
I was about to ask, like, how does it show up specifically for running?
I just avoid running at night because I know that if I go alone, then I am putting myself in a situation where, where I could be in danger. Yeah. So I don't do that consciously. I mean, I wish I didn't have to, but I have to. And the other thing is careful of being confronted by street dogs. Because that can be very scary.
Yes. Yeah.
Because if there's one dog, it's not a problem, but sometimes they roam around in the pack. Mm-hmm. And if you're alone and you're running, that they kind of feel threatened, or like they become a little territorial. So that can be pretty scary. So for me, when I have to run in an unknown place, or if I have to run in the evening or whatever, like if I can get somebody to run with me, then it's like better. Yeah. But even then, I kind of avoid it.
If I contrast that to my experience, I actually love going out for a walk at night after the first snow in Toronto, because it's just magical, it's beautiful, the snow crunches under your feet or like under your shoes. It's as if you were crunching ice in your mouth. And I just enjoy a quick 10-15 minute walk. It's usually at midnight or at 1 o'clock in the morning when there's nobody on the streets. And I love that experience. And I know I cannot do that here.
I think that's why people live in societies here. Because in societies, you have that space where you can actually go out for a walk, and it's a residential area, and it's like basically there's a boundary and there are guards on the gate. So it's safe versus if you're staying in a separate building or build a floor.
Yeah, but also like even in my aunt's colony, for example, it's not a gated community, but it's like a colony. So it's just a bunch of residences, and every residence has a security guard outside. So I think for the most part, it might be okay. It's just not advisable.
Yeah.
Going back to running, has it ever felt unsafe in like longer runs that you go for?
My longest runs are usually during races because my training is shorter, and I train at the same area pretty much every day, and it's just the loops increase. The people out there already know me, so there is never an issue. But races is where you'll end up running alone. Yeah. Usually in ultras, you don't have that many people who participate. Of course, there are a few where there are lots of people now and the race is getting popular. But there was one that I did in November, and we were not more than 30-40 runners.
Okay, that's very few.
Yeah, that's very few. And our distance is like 50 kilometers. Also, when you start the race, there are more people in the beginning, but then the more you are mid in the race or later, so then the crowd kind of spreads out. and there are, there are times where you're absolutely alone.
Yeah.
There might be a runner maybe 500, 600 meters ahead of you and maybe behind you.
Yeah.
So basically, there's no one in the line of sight. During that race, I wouldn't say exactly confronted, but there was an older man who was on a bike, and he literally asked me that, "Oh, do you want to sit on the bike with me and come to the market?" It was so weird, No, the weird part was I'm wearing a bib, and obviously I told him like, "Who are you to ask me this?" And even though I answered back, somewhere inside I was just like, what if he reacts in the way that I'm not expecting? Because I'm already tired.
You're tired, he's on a bike.
He's on a bike,
Yeah.
and the area is like, I'm alone and I can't see anybody there. And
yeah, he could do anything.
He could do anything, and what am I supposed to do? So once he left, I was feeling very anxious, and I almost thought that, what if he just turns around on his bike and comes?
Shit, yes. That is all. Wow. I didn't even think about that.
You might say something to somebody and the person may not like it and take offense, okay?
Yeah.
And just to get even, that person can react in whatever way they want.
Or they can go and grab somebody else and bring them too on the bike. Like,
Actually,
that's
yeah. Like anything.
Let's just escalate.
It could just escalate and you just wouldn't know like how it happened and where it happened or whatever. And then I was literally like that. So I was like, okay, fine. Let me just focus on getting to an area where I can see a couple of people. The moment I reached the next hydration station, I told the person that this is what has happened.
Mm-hmm.
Not because they can save me, but the point is there are other women in the race, right? Like, what if the guy goes and says something else to another female runner?
It was very mindful of you in that moment to be like, I should inform them so that other women...
Yeah, so, and I thought that the sooner I inform, the quicker that they can take action, right? Once the race got over, I spoke with the race organizer, and then they told me that, you know what, we had actually spoken to the local village sarpanchas and aligned them on the fact that there's a race that's going to happen. But it was on the outskirts of the city, so people would not be used to seeing women in, t-shirt and shorts running.
Yeah.
So they might find it amusing, and it's okay to find amusing. The point is, when you react to it in a way which is just not welcome.
Yeah, that's when things start to feel unsafe, right?
Yeah.
Because you feel threatened, violated.
Also, the fact that you don't want to feel anxious during a race because of somebody else, because you're already tired. Like, you don't want heart palpitations during the race because of this, out of all things. Like, you're here to run a race. Hey, leave me alone. I'm already struggling.
One struggle is enough. You gotta start running in like the lengas, man.
Dude, you can't. No, you start chafing everywhere.
It's like a subtle aggression that happens on a daily basis, and when you live in a city like Gurgaon, it's just lesser, so you sort of forget about it until it happens, and then it's a reminder that things have not changed.
So I have gotten to know about a couple of female runners. When they're training in the morning, there are car full of guys who might be coming back after a night of clubbing in the morning at 5 a.m. and usually that's the time when runners run, and they've gotten eve teased.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
Like, it was so scary. Like, those are also the main roads. And people are careless about how they're driving. Also, the fact that when people are coming back from clubbing, they're drunk.
Yeah. It's unsafe from that perspective for sure. When I contrast that, like, yes, it's slightly safer, but there is a different subtext there that is not here, which is racism. Yes. So while I do go out at night, or I travel alone a lot in Canada and the US and stuff, and I have gone on road trips and everything, the thing that I have to keep in mind is that I'm a brown woman and I need to be careful about the places I'm stepping into for gas, for food, for like how I'm going to be perceived.
Like, what happens?
They're microaggressions.
Actually, go back to your country kinds.
No, but close. I have been called a terrorist.
What?
Well, I was waiting outside my friend's building and she wasn't picking up her phone. It was raining outside. I had a bag with me because we were going to go swimming in her apartment building. So I had a bag with like my costume and stuff and whatnot. And this guy white dude was entering the building, and because it was raining, I was like, hey, can you just let me in the lobby? And he was like, I don't know, what if you have a bomb in your bag? And I was so shocked in that moment. And then he just like, ha ha ha, and walked away. To him, it was a funny joke. And to me, I was just stunned. And this happened in like downtown Seattle. And this was right after Trump won for the first time.
Oh.
So this was when you started to see like people are getting more empowered to say what they're thinking, right? But anyways, it's It's a bit of safety stuff for me for sure, not as much as here, but there's definitely racism. So,
I think problems
which
are
one
there
is
everywhere.
better?
Yeah. People just can't leave us alone.
They really cannot. Again, like just thinking about different aspects of life. Another area, and this one, I'm actually very curious to hear your thoughts on this. When I was in my hometown for the rest of my vacation, something that I noticed that I've always done, but I was never actually aware of it until now, is that I tend to like shrink myself in a way where I don't want any attention. I don't want to look into people's eyes. And it's because it's just how I feel safe. Because whenever I look up, all I notice is just like these lustful eyes looking at me, and like it just makes you feel uncomfortable. And like sometimes there are looks of curiosity, which is fine, but other times you can tell what that look is, and I'd rather just not do anything about it and ignore it because it's just more efficient. And I'm curious how that plays out for you here.
In Gurgaon, those things don't happen because obviously this is a metro city.
Yeah.
But even my hometown, it's a tier 2 city. But again, this does not exactly happen. Like, for example, I go running in the local park there, and if I'm wearing my shorts and t-shirt, I'm not looked at as somebody who's wearing short clothes. That's not the kind of impression that I've got. The reaction I do have from people like, oh, she's been running here for 2 hours.
So that's curiosity.
That was nice. That is actually fine, because then I know that they're not judging me for how I am dressed or that I'm a woman or making some sort of snide comment. So it's none of that. It's just their observation of me in more of an athlete situation. They might be wondering like, oh, she's a woman and she's running for that long.
That's amazing.
That could be like, I'm just guessing, but not in the unsafe way. Like, that's not happened there. But I get what you're talking about. Sometimes you are in a space where there are people who are staring at you, and like you said, it's just efficient to not indulge in it. You can't sit and explain yourself on, how you are the way you are, or the fact that you don't even know what they're thinking.
And it's the same thing as that Uber situation, right?
Yeah.
Like if you engage, you don't know how it's gonna go. Then you're gonna spend your energy on on a person who you may never interact with again.
Right,
like,
because you're
what's
not
the
here to
point?
school people.
Yeah. And so you pick the battles that matter. It's also a double-edged sword, because my strategy right now is to look past it, where I'm not observing what's going on so that I am vigilant and I'm ready to respond if something happens.
No, your response is that you just want to avoid the situation.
I want to avoid the situation.
But you are obviously aware, no, which is why you are avoiding it. If you were not feeling like you had to avoid it, you'll just be normal, right?
It's like a psychological bubble that I create.
Like, okay, I can't see anything.
I can't see anything. If we were to think through everything that we have discussed, when we think of women being free, I think the real question is, what are the things that we're negotiating in like the different places we live in? There are things that you negotiate or you think about mentally a lot more than I do. So like the safety aspect is sometimes for you, it's a racism aspect for me, or something that we actually haven't touched yet is there is also a sense of isolation that I feel because my family is here, and a lot of times when we live abroad, that could be true. And I think that is not something that you may experience here, right? I feel like there's just different type of negotiations, different things that we are thinking about on a daily basis. I don't think we can just say that Toronto is better or India is better. Or
Actually, India has created a lot of things which are convenient now.
For sure.
And like a lot.
Like day-to-day life can be online and convenient, but offline, which is when you have to interact with people, that's where the friction comes in.
I've had to work around things a lot. Like I had to change my training schedule.
Yeah.
Because I know that I cannot train at certain times, so I have to squeeze in the time around the times that is going to be more safe for me. Or the fact that I have to pay a premium for the house that I live in because I want the locality to be safe. Apart from that, getting the car. So all of these things actually cost a premium.
Yeah.
So I spend more money just so I can feel more safe in my environment.
Yeah. And while things may be more convenient, you're still paying a tax.
Yeah.
And I may not be paying the same tax, but there are other taxes that I am paying with isolation from my community and racism. Like we're not going to get away from it. That's like a systemic issue that will take a while to get fixed, just like sexism.
Yeah.
So I guess at the end of the day, we're negotiating different taxes, same bill, and at least you're doing it with more colorful outfits, prettier outfits. That was the first part of my conversation with Sugandha. We unpacked the negotiations we make just to exist in the physical space, from the audacity of the Uber driver in India to the magical but lonely snow in Toronto. The tax we pay as independent women has many layers, and it doesn't end at our front door. In 2 weeks, I'm going to be back where we're moving from the safety of the body to the safety of the script. And we are diving into the workplace dynamics and the pressure of marriage. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the conclusion for the question we started with: are women freer abroad? In the meantime, join me on socials where we continue the conversation and unlearning of the scripts we never agreed to. I will see you there, and until next time, goodbye.